All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the March 1st, 2022 City of Oshkosh Plan Commission meeting. I do see that we have a quorum. A few housekeeping items I'd like to cover before we begin. Please silence your cell phone and other electronic devices. Also, please utilize the mute function on your phone or computer screen to eliminate background noises and potential sound feedback. To speak on an item that is listed as a public hearing, please use the raised hand feature on the right of your video screen if it is available to you, and I will call on you in the order I see after the public hearing has been declared open. If you do not have the ability to raise a hand, please respectfully request to speak without interrupting the current speaker. During a public hearing, you will be allowed to address the Plan Commission after the applicant has made an opening statement. You must state your name and address for the record before speaking. You will be allowed to speak on each agenda item only once unless the Plan Commission members ask you for clarification or a follow-up question. Finally, after the public has done speaking, the applicant will be allowed a final chance to speak. As this is a virtually attended meeting, all voting items require a roll call vote. So on to our roll call attendance.
Ms. Davy? Sorry, Ms. Davy? Oh,
I'm here.
Councilman-
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Councilmember Ford? Mr. Kiefer? No one's here. Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Ms. Prop?
Here.
Ms. Shireman?
Here.
Mr. Bowen? Mr. Coulibaly?
Here.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Here.
Chairperson Perry?
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. Approval of the February 15th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion from the floor?
Mitchell make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Shireman second.
And we have a motion and a second as presented. Any discussion on this, or should we go to roll? All right, let's go to a roll call vote.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairperson Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you, Commission. On to our the rest of our agenda. Item 1, public hearing, conditional use permit request for a temporary use permit extension at 1301 Knapp Street. Oshkosh Defense LLC is the petitioner. Have there been any site inspections of that property by Plan Commission members? I see no hands raised by Plan Commission, so I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Staff, present your summary, please.
Thank you. So this is a conditional use permit request for a temporary use permit extension for outdoor vehicle storage. The site is a 48-acre parcel with frontage on Osborne Avenue. It's zoned heavy industrial and it's part of the Oshkosh Quarry. A temporary use permit was issued in November of 2021 for storage of Oshkosh defense vehicles, and that TUP expired on February 1st. So the applicant is requesting extension of the TUP through April of this year. The applicant notes that the TUP extension is needed to allow for continued vehicle storage, as they have been experiencing delays with parts as well as shipping instruction for vehicles. And the applicant anticipates having the vehicles removed from the site sometime in April. So staff is supportive of the TUP extension for an additional 90 days due to those shipping concerns and time constraints to allow those vehicles for extended time. And also the site was utilized for storage of vehicles through TUPs in both 2020 and 2021, and staff did not receive any concerns related to that use of the property. Staff also feels that the quarry area is an appropriate area for temporary vehicle storage. So staff is recommending approval of the TUP extension with the condition that all the vehicles be removed from the site by May 1st.
Okay, Plan Commission, do you have any technical questions to the staff? Justin, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Why May 1st? If there's no issues from neighbors and nothing else is happening there, what was the basis for only having it through May 1st?
So basically extend it for a second TUP, whereas they'd only be allowed 90 days in a year. It's just giving them a renewed TUP for an additional 90 days.
It meets with the time frame they've identified for us. The CUP cannot allow permanent outdoor storage there. It can only extend the duration of a TUP.
Okay, thank you.
Plan Commission, any additional questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. This is a public hearing, and so I will open the public comment at this time and request a statement from the applicant if the applicant is here.
Yeah, hi, this is Brian Myers from Oshkosh Corporation. The narrative that Brian had went through does describe the whole situation with us needing to store vehicles on that site for a period of time through April, just due to shipping instructions from our customer, as well as just supply chain issues. And we've utilized the site in the past without issues and just need to extend for a little bit longer to get us through this time period.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Myers. Is there, without any additional statement, I will request for additional public comment at this time. Is there anybody attending the meeting that would like to make a public comment on this agenda item? Is there anybody else in the public that would like to make a comment on this particular agenda item? Okay, Mark, having seen none, I will declare the public comment period closed. And usually we ask for a closing statement from the applicant. However, since there was no public comment, you still can do so. However, you don't need to be obliged. Any comment from you further, Mr. Meyer?
I do not have any other comments.
All right. Committee, we need some action here.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendation as stated in the staff report. Kathy.
Kiefer,
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so it is now on the floor. Is there any plan commission discussion on the motion? Any plan commission discussion on the motion? All right, I see none. As such, I will call a vote.
Miss Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Miss Prop,
Aye.
Miss Shireman,
Aye.
Mr. Kulabali,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye,
Motion carried 8-0.
thank you. Agenda item number 2 this evening. A public hearing conditional use permit request for a communication tower at 0 Stillman Drive. Harmony Towers LLC is petitioner. Were there any site inspections by Plan Commission for this particular agenda item? Any site inspections by the Plan Commission? Okay, having seen none, I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Staff, your presentation, please.
Thank you. This is a conditional use permit request for installation of a new cell tower. The site is a little over 6 acres in size, located on the south side of Stillman Drive. Next slide, please. The property is currently vacant. It's located within the Northwest Industrial Park. The surrounding area is mostly industrial uses, along with Lakeview Cemetery to the south. So the applicant is proposing to install a new cell tower with an overall height of 199 feet. The tower will be accessed from Stillman Drive with a 12-foot wide access drive, and the tower and equipment will be enclosed within a 70-foot by 70-foot fenced-in area. The plan is meeting all applicable setback, impervious surface, and height requirements of the zoning ordinance. The tower height has also been approved by the FAA. The plans include a 6-foot tall solid fence to enclose the tower and the equipment. The applicant has provided a sworn statement attesting that co-location within the applicant's search ring is economically burdensome, and that meets the documentation requirement for a new cell tower under the zoning ordinance. The plan does not include street frontage landscaping, which will be something that is required, and we can address that during site plan review. They will also need to provide some paved area landscaping as well, so that will also be needed to be added, and we can review that during site plan review. So with that, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit request for a new cell tower as proposed, with the condition that the final fencing shall be approved by the Department of Community Development, and the final landscaping plan shall be approved by Community Development.
Okay, Plan Commission, thank you for that report. Plan Commission, are there any technical questions to the staff on this report? Plan Commission, are there any technical questions to the staff on this report? Okay, I see no hands raised.
Looks like Ms. Prop.
Ms. Prop. Ms. Prop, your hand is up.
Yes, this may not be the right time to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. We today received an objection to this that will be, I'm sure we will hear from the objector in a few minutes. But this is very frustrating because the state ties our hands and really gives us very little leeway for saying yes or no on a new cell phone tower. And we have no background to discern whether the objection is correct or not. This is becoming a pattern with these cell phone tower requests. So I just say that now for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Prop. Are there any other technical questions to our staff? All right, seeing none, I will open the public comment period and request a statement from the applicant on their project. So is the applicant here? If the applicant's here, you can make a statement now. Please mention your name and address for our records, please.
This is
the applicant. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Paul Jonas. I'm an attorney at Michael Best and Friedrich. I represent Harmony Towers, the applicant. I believe that Scott Littell is also on this call. And Scott, if you are Could you chime in, please? Okay, Scott may be having some technical difficulties. I believe we've also got Andrew Flowers from AT&T on the line. Is that right?
Yep. Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Andrew Flowers. I'm with AT&T Mobility. Sorry about our technical difficulties. I don't know if you guys can even see me because I can't see you. I'll give you a little background on why AT&T is doing what we're doing. Currently, AT&T is in the process of upgrading a great number of their facilities throughout Wisconsin. And one of the items that keeps coming up is coverage from our existing sites, as opposed to finding another facility to work with to provide better coverage, meaning more height, or maybe moving the tower to closer to residential or business use. And in this particular case, AT&T is asking to, through Harmony, is asking to build a new facility that is about 50 plus feet taller than the existing site to better cover the north end of town, including the industrial park and obviously residential areas. And we feel as though we cannot meet those requirements at our existing site. The tower that we're proposing to build will be built for multiple co-locators. It could be built for 4 co-locations on the site. So the tower is going to be built for future use by anybody else that is willing to lease or wanting to lease space. This new cell site will also have FirstNet on it for first responders, which is part of AT&T's requirements with our contract with the federal government to provide those services. And the tower will also have the newest technology added to it for 5G. So really beyond that, I can answer some technical questions if you want, but I think staff did a good job of explaining, where it's at and what's proposed. And we don't have any objections to landscaping that could be taken care of during the building permit process. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to request additional public comment. I know that there are individuals that would like to speak on this matter. At this time, additional public comment is available. Please state your name and your address for our records, please. I see Attorney Shane Anderson. You can speak, please.
Yes, my name is Attorney Shane Anderson with the law firm of Conway, Olenichek and Jerry, appearing on behalf of SBA Structures, LLC. And the purpose of our attendance today is to provide the Plan Commission with some information as it relates to the existing cell tower on which AT&T is currently co-located, approximately 0.2 miles away from this proposed site location. The reason for our appearance today is to just provide some additional information that the Plan Commission can consider in making a decision today. The first point we'd like to bring up is that in negotiating with SBA Structures, AT&T mentioned today that the height of this new tower will provide enhanced capabilities. To this point, SBA had not been approached by AT&T, to my knowledge, as it relates to increased height capabilities on this current location. That's certainly something that SBA Structures would be willing to discuss with AT&T moving forward. I do have a few figures. I know that the current tower of SBA's at the Algoma Boulevard location is currently at 90.1% capacity. The usual threshold is about 105%. So there's certainly room for expansion as it relates to that existing cell tower. The secondary point I'd like to make is that in the affidavit provided by AT&T as it relates to this new proposed cell tower, they bring up the disparity in rent. As it relates to that, again, SBA would be willing to engage in further discussions on terms comparable site location forward. AT&T has not approached SBA as it relates to negotiating rent to my knowledge. So at this point, we would just be looking for the Plan Commission minimum postpone a decision to some further discussion, further fact inquiry into this matter, rather than make a decision today.
So I don't know if this is the right time to jump in. This is Paul Jonas at Michael Best and Friedrich again. If the commission would be agreeable, I'd like to respond to a few of the points we just heard from Attorney Anderson.
Mr. Perry, I think if you're talking, you might be muted.
Mr. Jones, it is not the time at this point to respond. We have to allow the rest of the public to address this as they so choose, and then the applicant can make a closing statement after the public hearing. So thank you for your understanding on that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Sure. Mr. Attorney Anderson, at least I could hear you cutting out. I don't know if the rest of the Plan Commission could hear that. I think that you are requesting a delay in this action item or postponement. Is that what you were saying at the end there?
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there any other individuals wishing to speak at the public comment period at this time? Are there any other individuals wishing to speak at the public comment period at this time? Mark, I'm not seeing any. You're not seeing any either?
I am not.
All right, so at this time, I'm going to ask for a close. I'm going to close the public comment period and ask for a closing statement from the applicant. Mr. Attorney Jonet, you can comment now.
Thank you. Yeah, so as some of you may recall, I believe you've probably heard versions of this discussion at previous hearings between various cell tower developers and SBA. I can tell you that I've done dozens of these hearings over the past few years, and this is a frequent exchange and a frequent technique. And so I think most of you are probably familiar with the Wisconsin statute 660404 that was previously mentioned that does put some guardrails around the way that cell tower applications are processed, considered, and approved. And in the case of SBA, it's been a somewhat unique situation among AT&T's carriers. I know, though I represent Harmony, I certainly work a lot with AT&T as well, where most carriers around the country have been willing to discuss with AT&T modifying not just the financial terms, i.e. the rent on their towers, but also I'll call them the operational terms, and specifically with regard to the ability of carriers, not just AT&T, because as Andrew noted, this tower is designed for, I believe, up to four carriers, to quickly and efficiently swap out old equipment for new. And as we all know, as we've learned over the last couple of years, it's critically important that folks that are working from home have great connectivity using the best technology. SBA, unique among tower developers has elected to stay with their economically burdensome former lease structure that does not allow for carriers to quickly and easily swap out equipment for new when the situation calls for it. Harmony's, on the other hand, does. So putting aside the fact that over the term of the lease, AT&T is going to save literally millions of dollars in rent, and those savings will be passed directly on to consumers, as they necessarily must be. There's also the operational aspect that when combined with the substantial rent savings, definitely meets the economic burden standard in 660404. In addition to that, as we hear very frequently, SBA has a habit of remaining silent until the day of the meeting, and then, as they did, it sounds like in this case, sending a letter the day of the meeting, raising an objection, ultimately trying to maintain their monopoly in a market. And in the rare case that they're successful, the result is less coverage, poorer coverage, and more expensive coverage for citizens of whatever community it is that we're trying to build the new tower in. So I would suggest that Harmony has met and frankly exceeded the standard under 660404. I realize it's an uncomfortable position for you all to be in, to sort of be in the middle of this discussion between two carriers. And frankly, and Andrew could speak to this more if you'd like, but you know, AT&T, I believe, though I represent Harmony, AT&T would be more than happy to have a discussion, and in fact is having discussions with multiple carriers about not just one tower, because there's thousands of towers and it's not possible to have these ad hoc negotiations on a tower by tower basis. They are, as we speak, attempting to negotiate a more global resolution with SBA and other carriers to bring those costs down, but they have not been able to do that at this time, and thus the new tower application.
All right, thank you. I do have a hand raised from a plan commission member, and I will allow a comment if it's directed towards one of the public comment speakers or the applicants. Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you. Paul, I'm happy to hear that my AT&T bill is going to be reduced now because of this, but my question for you is the proximity of, I don't know, a user to a cell tower. Is the closer you are to the cell tower, is the better service you get in general?
I'm going to let Andrew speak to that, but I will note, as it relates to the proximity of the tower to homes, I'll say, that in this case, as in many cases, we do our best to locate these towers in areas that will be sort of the least obtrusive. And I think, if I heard correctly, we're in an industrial park near a cemetery in this case. So hopefully we've accomplished that goal. But Andrew, could you maybe speak to the proximity question?
Let me ask the full question then. So there's presumably other cell providers on a given tower. Maybe there's multiples, I'm not exactly sure. But let's say that this part of the town is well covered by one tower, and there may be another area of town that is also in an industrial park or other underutilized area that maybe doesn't have good coverage. What's the need to go less than a quarter mile away from an existing tower with a second tower right in that? You can see how from a land use planning perspective, it may be permissible and it's probably going to go through, but it just, sometimes these things don't seem to be the most sensible, but I may be missing something.
Sure. Afternoon. This is Andrew Flowers again from AT&T. So forgive me if I missed some of your questions, so let me know if I've captured everything. In regards to, as you get closer to the tower, do you get better coverage or less coverage? So basically, the way that the AT&T builds their network is like a 1,000-foot or 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. So as you put those pieces together, we want to make sure that they're seamless. So as you're driving your car from one point to the next point, you don't have drop calls, or if you're trying to download, maybe you got kids in the car, they're trying to download something or watch a movie, and try not to have any disruption of service. So when we have to build a tower that we're on close to another tower that, or say the tower that we were on, building another tower very close to it helps us maintain that ability to keep continuous coverage. In this particular case, the existing site, we are at about 140 feet in elevation. The new tower will be at 190 feet. Now, going back to just looking at, the economics of it is one thing, but the engineering piece of it, adding 50 feet to a tower is really not a workable solution, because that tower would have been built as tall as it should have been from the engineering when it was originally constructed, and it's just not made to do what it's going to be asked to do, which is adding a 50-foot extension to it. Hence the reason why we're asking for this tower to be built with the newest engineering standards and have the ability to carry multiple carriers for future use. AT&T does not like having to build multiple sites next to another site, because we'd rather, it's cheaper, faster for us to co-locate on something that was built correctly. And in this case, we feel as though that is not something that we can work with today for multiple reasons. And AT&T currently, we've been in front of you several times in the last year or so with other requests, like down by Oshkosh, we're in Oshkosh, but down by the EA Museum, on property there just to the east of the EAA. AT&T has several other brand new sites that are co-locating on existing structures throughout Oshkosh. And, we're really trying to increase our service and capacity for the users of your community. Did that answer your question, sir?
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your statement. At this point, I'm going to ask for Plan Commission action on this agenda item. Plan Commission, you have what's your say?
Mitchell, make a motion to adopt the recommendations and finding as stated in the staff report.
Rob, second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor for this. We can have the Plan Commission have discussion on the motion, and I do want to start that discussion by echoing what former Chairperson Prop had said at the beginning of this. We've had these in front of us before. Whether you're in agreement with the principle or not, there is very little that the Plan Commission can do for these types of things. We are here to meet the needs of the community by adhering to the statutes and regulations around this. And I do agree with former Chairperson Prop that our hands are pretty much tied on these types of things. Other Plan Commission discussion on the motion. Last call plan discussion on this motion. Okay, I see none. So we need a roll call on the motion on the floor.
Ms. Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer,
Sorry, aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Prop,
Aye.
Ms. Shireman,
Aye.
Mr. Kulabali,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you, Commission. Item number 3 on our agenda, the public hearing zone change from Riverfront Mixed Use District, RMU, and Riverfront Mixed Use District, Riverfront Overlay, RMU, RFO, to Riverfront Mixed Use District with a Planned Development Overlay, RMU, PD. by the Redevelopment Authority of Oshkosh. The T-Wall Enterprises is the petitioner. Have there been any site inspections for this item? Ms. Davy, I see. Ms. Prop? Mr. Mitchell? No other Plan Commission members? I will accept the staff report as part of the record. All right, staff, let's hear the report.
Thank you. This is a rezone request. There's 11 subject parcels. They are all located on the east side of South Main Street, with the general vicinity of East 7th Ave, East 8th Ave, East 9th Ave, and Pioneer Drive. The area is currently zoned Riverfront Mixed Use District, with some of those parcels having a Riverfront overlay designation. All parcels are located within the Sawdust District redevelopment area. So the applicant is requesting a zone change to add a plan development overlay for all of the subject properties. This is intended to provide consistent zoning to allow for those lots to be combined. It will also accommodate redevelopment of the site by allowing some flexibility to the zoning ordinance, and will also allow for further review of the development plans for consistency with the Sawdust District plan. So we split this into two separate requests for the rezone and then the general development plan to follow. We want to do this as there are several properties involved in this request. Staff is supportive of the proposed rezone, as it will assist redevelopment of the area and will also provide further review of future development, again to provide consistency with the Sawdust District plan. So staff recommends approval of the rezone with the findings listed in your staff report.
Yeah, just to touch on what Brian mentioned there, the reason we split these is we're rezoning a slightly larger area than the redevelopment area you're going to see in the next petition. On the screen, we have kind of the general area. There's a small parcel here, this triangle looking piece that's owned by Wisconsin Public Service. There's a couple of little pieces along the river here of property that are not part of the redevelopment area, but for consistency and overall zoning of an area, we included them just so we didn't end up with a little bit of mishmash zoning in this area.
Okay, thank you. Plan Commission, do you have any technical questions for Brian or the staff? Mr. Mitchell, I saw your hand pop up first.
Thank you. Just curious if this impacts the plan for park space to flow all along where the road was. I believe the initial parks plan or the initial neighborhood plan, we had a large swath of a park that trailed all along.
It does not. Nope, that is still the plan.
Hey, Ms. Prop, you are next.
Yes, I'm confused, having looked at the site again. There are existing buildings within this larger site, specifically north of 8th. Those are included in this rezoning and will be eventually part of this new development.
Correct. They are part of the redevelopment area.
Okay, so the only remaining building in this area is what I'm going to call the 600 South Main, right on the corner, which has office space in it. Yeah, right there.
Yep, correct.
And so all these other buildings then north of 9th, and not including that building, will be removed as part of this project.
Correct. No,
Yeah,
go
there
ahead.
are no buildings out there right now besides the Brooklyn condos there. Those buildings that are shown on the aerial photo have been demolished.
Yep, these are all have been removed.
Yeah.
Okay, the ones I'm thinking about then are the ones between 10th and 9th.
And that's not part
Which
of
are
this
not part of
project.
this, which are not part of this project. Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Davy.
Yes. Could somebody explain to me? I'm not real sure what I'm looking at here as far as the existing Sixth Avenue and the Riverwalk and where the development will begin. Can you kind of walk me through that from the rivers south?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to show with my cursor here the best I can. We have slides in the next item that'll hopefully help. The first building is kind of in this area for the general development plan. And I'm very crudely showing it, and then building 2 and building 3. This will
Okay,
be
Mark,
nice
I
to
meant
have-
specifically, specifically along the water's edge. There's no Riverwalk there now that I saw.
No, the Riverwalk will be going in. Ms. Nyforth can probably better talk about that timing.
Sure. Yep. We actually started construction on the utilities last fall for the Riverwalk, and they'll be starting again in April, and the Pioneer Drive will be closed and the Riverwalk will be constructed. So that will be in the spring.
Sixth Ave.
Oh, sorry. I think you broke up a little bit there.
I'm not understanding the Riverwalk and
Margie, you're breaking up a little bit. Maybe try turning your video off and then continuing.
yeah, sure. Okay. Did that help any?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was their question again?
Okay, what I'm not understanding is it doesn't look to me like there's room to maintain 6th Avenue and a Riverwalk along the river's edge. So is 6th Avenue going away and being replaced by the Riverwalk?
So 6th Avenue actually stops at South Main Street. The road right along the Riverwalk is actually named Pioneer Drive. That's Pioneer Drive, technically. So yes, there will be no road along the waterfront anymore. The road, Pioneer Drive, will be closed. There will be a Riverwalk. And then right now, staff is working to extend East 9th, and that will become the new access point to Pioneer Drive, along with 14th down to the south. So that will be another project that will be done this year.
Okay, thank you. That clears a lot up for me.
Sure. Yep, no problem.
Okay, any other technical questions for the staff? I see none. So we will move to open the public comment period and request a statement from the applicant. Applicant, please remember to state your name and your address for our records, please.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jake Buns, T-Wall Enterprises. I'm the project manager for this Mill on Main development. Mark or Brian, I don't know if you guys think it's best. I can run through some details on the project now or wait until we get to the next agenda item, just because our site plan and our plans will be up and that's for the GDP. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, let's do it during the GDP. This is really that consistency of zoning and establishing the basis for what we're going to do in the next item.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, then I'll just leave it at that. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, I will request additional public comment at this time. Anybody besides the applicant, do you have anything to say as the public comment period is open? Once again, I'm looking for public comment. A public comment period is open. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this item? All right, I'm seeing none, so I am going to close the public comment period. Once again, I can ask for a closing statement from the applicant. I'm not entirely sure you want to do that, but that's up to you.
No, I think I'm good.
All right, Commission, we have an agenda item that needs some action. What do you have?
I move to adopt the finding and recommendation as stated in staff report.
Shireman, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on the motion at this point? Anybody from the commission want to discuss the motion? Once again, anybody from the commission want to discuss the motion? All right, I see none. Time for a vote. Roll call, please.
Miss Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Miss Prop,
Aye.
Miss Shireman,
Aye.
Mr. Kulabali,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Wonderful, thank you. Item number 4 on our agenda tonight is a general development plan for mixed-use development at properties located on the east side of South Main Street. The T-Wall Enterprises is the petitioner. This is part 2 of the last agenda item. Were there any site inspections on this agenda item? I have Ms. Davy and I have Mr. Mitchell reporting site inspections. Anybody else?
Looks like Miss Prop as well.
Okay, Ms. Prop. I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Staff, you can present your report.
Thank you. So this is the general development plan for the area identified in the previous request. So the applicant is proposing to reconfigure the subject parcels for a mixed-use development. That will also include vacation of East 8th Avenue and Pioneer Drive, an extension of East 9th Avenue, as Kelly had mentioned, and that will be addressed through a CSM. The proposed development will include 3 5-story buildings and a private clubhouse. So here's the aerial view and here's the site plan. So the 2 buildings with frontage along South Main Street will be mixed-use buildings with first-floor commercial space for retail and multifamily units above. The eastern building with frontage along East 9th Avenue will be a multifamily building with potential for future commercial space. The ground floor commercial uses will be retail, as well as a waterfront restaurant on the north side of the site. Other amenities include a small outdoor amphitheater, potential skating rink, public and private boat slips, walking paths, pool, pickleball court, and public dog park across East 9th Avenue. So the plan meets the goals of the Sawdust District core sub-area and River North sub-areas as mixed use and multifamily, as well as open parks and open space are listed as desired uses within those sub-areas. And the plan is consistent with the design and development guidelines for those sub-areas. All 3 buildings will have both underground and surface parking. There will be a total of 291 residential units and a total of 451 bedrooms. Proposed parking includes a total of 458 on-site spaces. It is under the minimum requirement per code. However, the applicant has noted that the total of bedrooms will result in slightly more than 1 parking space per bedroom. And staff anticipates future on-street parking and shared public parking areas around the development, in addition to the on-site parking, will meet the parking needs for the commercial spaces. The base standard modifications needed for reduced parking would be addressed as part of the SIP request. The plan appears to meet the setbacks for the zoning district, with the exception of the parking areas shown at the northeast and southeast corners of the site, and any BSMs needed for reduced setbacks would also be addressed during the SIP phase. The development will be built with the ability to provide electric vehicle charging stations for all of the covered parking stalls, but will initially install charging stations at 30% of the covered parking stalls. Next slide, please. And next slide will be the elevations, which include wall signage plans. So wall signage will be included for ground floor commercial spaces, as well as a building name at the southwest corner of the building. And these are the preliminary plans, with the final plans being reviewed as part of the SIP phase. A landscape plan was not included with the submittal, and that will be requested as part of the SIP process. So these preliminary color renderings of the building were submitted, and the applicant notes that the building exteriors will consist of brick, stone, and accents of hardy plank siding, with the specific siding, plank, and colors to be selected for the SIP phase. The plans appear to be consistent with the core sub-area of the Sawdust District design guidelines, and the final building elevations and materials will be reviewed for consistency with the Sawdust District architecture and design guidelines as part of the SIP phase. And with that, staff recommends approval of the general development plan with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Thank you for your report. Are there any technical questions to staff at this time? Once again, any technical questions to staff at this time?
Kathy has her hand up. Thought she did. Can I proceed?
Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I have a question about the corner off, just off of this site, at the river and the railroad, where 9th Avenue comes in and curves up and then curves back down again, evidently to join Pioneer Drive. Are those public parking, those little notches off 9th to the south, public parking for the river?
Correct. What we're looking at there is that area was not included in the RFP that was done as part of T-Weld project. We're looking at doing some either shared parking options there, some trail HUD parking for access to the trail is kind of the plan that we're still working through for those areas. But yes, those are off of their site and on the private city-owned property yet.
Okay. Right now, that's all I have.
Hey, I saw Mr. Kiefer with his hand up.
Yeah, just wondering on the boat slips, are those are they being built by the developer and are they open to the public? Are they, you know, because I see the Riverwalk going to run between that, so is that, I'm assuming that's public land and anyone could park the boat there?
I'm gonna see if Miss Nyforth can chime in. She's been a little more involved in that part than we have been.
Sure. Yeah, the boat docks are we'll have to work through that. You are right that technically if it comes off of the city land, the city would own them. You have to have riparian rights to own the boat docks. So we would have to work with the applicant and the DNR to see what would be the best path forward. If we would give them an easement, if there would be a lease, and perhaps maybe the applicant would be willing to have public boat docks, for folks that would want to come to the restaurant or something, or to the commercial uses along South Main Street. So that's something that, we need to work out those details.
Thank you.
Ms. Davy, I see your hand is up.
Yes, my question pertains to the dog park that was referenced in here. It said it was across 9th Avenue. Would that be right next to the public parking down there then?
Yes,
right where your little arrow's moving, right?
Where you can see the image start to cut off, this green space here is the potential location for the dog park.
And I would just like to note that the dog park, that is not been, where that's another detail that we're still working out with our parks department. And if it makes sense to go there, if who's operating it, who's building it. So we still have some details to work out for that also.
Thank you.
Okay, any other technical questions for the planning staff? Okay, I see no other technical questions, so I'll open the public comment period and request a statement from the applicant. Please remember to state your name and address for our records.
Yeah, hi, Jake Buns, T-Wall Enterprises. Address would be 1818 Parmenter Street in Middleton, Wisconsin here. Just following up on that was a great staff report, Brian and Mark, but just following up on a few things so the Plan Commission can have more background on the project. So this is the Mill on Main project, as you can see, 3 buildings with a clubhouse, mixed-use buildings. We really tried to design the site based off of the specs from the RFP and Sawdust District goals. We wanted to design it to have, retail frontage along South Main Street to activate South Main Street as much as we can, but also really make the site opening and inclusive of the future Riverwalk going in along Fox River. As far as the boat slips go, we would like to have, a few private slips, but public slips so people can come enjoy the river, the restaurant, the retail, the park, all that good stuff. The goal of the site design was to capture Fox River and Lake Winnebago views, really open it up to the water instead of, packing the buildings right along the waterfront and closing it off. This site plan creates a wide variety for outdoor uses. We really want to invite the community in, so not only the residents get to enjoy this development, but the community as well, with all the different features we have going on along the Riverwalk and the park and everything, the dog park, all that good stuff. Let's see. Parking. Brian had mentioned that we were just under the parking requirements, and just to touch on that a little bit, we shoot for, in all our developments, we shoot for 1.1 to 1 ratio on our parking stalls. So that's 1.1 parking stalls for every unit we put into our developments. And that's what we shoot across all of our developments. It's worked out really well. We have a few buildings down here in the Dane County area, Middleton Center, Peloton Residences, Watermark Lofts, that all are mixed-use buildings, and we have that parking count in there, and it's worked out really well. It ends up working well because most of the residents are, using so the residents will be parking in the covered parking stalls, whereas, commercial retail tenants will be parking in the surface parking stalls. Residents, if they have, more than one car, or guests coming over, they can use the surface parking stalls as well, but retail customers and employees use the stalls, from the business hours. So hours at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., whereas the residents are, away at work or at the office during those hours. They're using them typically after 5 p.m. and leaving in the morning before 8 a.m. or before 9 a.m. So just to address the parking there. I just want to talk about a few green features. Brian covered the electric vehicle parking stalls as something we've been shifting towards in all our developments, but for this particular development, we're going to have electric vehicle charging stations, in 30% of our covered parking stalls, but we're going to wire all of our covered parking stalls for EV charging stations to accommodate, 5, 10, 15 years from now if more people are driving electric vehicles. From the outset of all our developments, our architects design our buildings to be focused on energy certified, and there's some grants involved in that. We use, energy efficient appliances, LED lightings, low flow faucets. We use double pane, energy efficient windows, double insulated exterior walls and roofs. And we have ample bike parking on site for both public users and residents. So those are just some green features that we like to design within our sites and accommodate our users. Other than that, I can run through if any of the Plan Commission members have any specific questions for me. I'd be happy to answer anything. I know I didn't touch on everything, but figured to get the basics down. And I know I sent a cover letter along with GDP submittal, so hopefully some of you had a chance to take a look at that. It has a few more details in there. And one thing, I sent this email to Mark earlier last week, I believe. In the cover letter we had sent regarding the development timeline, there's an error in there. It said construction start. We're planning on breaking ground on the first building in the fall of 22, and so the fall of this year, and then opening up in the spring of 2023. I think I had in there, which I just want to make sure Your guys' expectations are our expectations ourselves are realistic. We can't build a building that short. I meant to say the spring of 2024. So I just wanted to be clear on that. They're about 14 to 16 month build times for each of these buildings. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody may have for me.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask for additional public comment on this project and this agenda item. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Okay, I see none. Therefore, I will close the public comment period. At this point, I ask for a closing statement from the applicant.
Does look like there may be a few plan commission questions for the applicant as well.
Right. So we can make the public, applicant, do you have a closing statement? If not, then we will call on some plan commission members.
I'd be happy to take any questions any that plan commission members have.
Okay, Ms. Propp.
Yes, I'm interested in the outdoor space that you've got. I see the amphitheater. It was frustrating, city, because I tried to zoom in on my computer and was unable to do it. Not this device now, but so I couldn't see detail. But I see the amphitheater, and you had mentioned possible ice rink. Just my personal observation, we would love to have ice rinks, but they're not doing well in the climate change. So I wouldn't think too carefully about an ice rink, but I could be wrong. Things could change. Which parts of that area outside the clubhouse, northeast of the clubhouse, would be open to the public for any reason?
And if I could chime in quick, Jake, too, before you say, final kind of configuration of that public space is still something we're working on with Parks Department and Jake and his team. So as the GDP is showing some conceptual what could go there, I don't want Plan Commission to think that's exactly what made the final form. We're still working through some of that discussion and information.
All right, thank you. And I personally will push for a little bit more public. Thank you, Jake.
Kathy, just to answer your question there, that all the green space is really can be accessed by the public. So like the private clubhouse and the pool, just to the northeast of it there, that'll all be fenced off around, where you see the building outline and the pavement outline. And then the pickleball courts will obviously be fenced off. But other than that, that's all community public can walk around, enjoy the paths. They can park in the central parking lot right there and go to the park. It's all open to the public. Like I said, we wanted to make it inclusive of the Riverwalk and make it inviting. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Mitchell, I saw you as next.
I think you're muted yet, Justin.
Sorry, thank you. I can talk about ice skating later. Don't discount ice skating yet based on what Kathy said, but I was curious about the whole the layout that you have. Overall, I think everything is a splendid improvement, and would be really excited to see this happen. I can't think of anything worse than putting a parking lot along the lake, and so I was curious if you looked at different layout designs that could possibly like swap building 3 with the parking, readjusting some things, but making it so that one, you don't have excessive impervious surface parking lots potentially flowing, polluting into the lake, but also just doesn't seem like, again, the best land use for directly along waterfront if there was another option that would possibly be able to move parking.
Yeah, I'll touch on that just because I agree with you, but the reason that came about is you can kind of see the property line goes down the middle of that parking lot there, yeah, where the cursor is showing. The area to the right, the city didn't include that as part of the RFP, and the idea for that area was to be a trailhead for Riverwalk users. So it was parking for people using the Riverwalk and enjoying the Riverwalk and going up and down Fox River. So what we did is we recognized that we needed a bit of surface parking outside of that building A3 for people with extra cars or guests to use. So instead of chopping the parking lot up, we tied into what we have shown there for the trailhead. So that's how that concept came about.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So there's a explanation behind it, but I agree with what you said.
Yeah, in the original Riverwalk design plans that were done, and Kelly can tell us that you're better than I can. A number of years ago at this point, it identified the need for some trailheads, and that was one of the areas that was identified early in that Riverwalk plan of a potential trailhead to make sure we can give people access to the Riverwalk in that area.
I don't want to digress too far, but if possible, if this was a trailhead and it's a beautiful waterfront trailhead, if we could potentially make that as nice as possible and not just a sprawling parking lot.
Yeah, I think there's some, when we get into a little further with actual designs, there's some improvements that we could look at making there.
All right, Ms. Davy, I saw you were next.
Thank you, Tom. I have a couple of questions regarding solar. I know, Jake, that you have obviously put a lot of thought into several sustainability measures in this whole complex. I was curious about two things. One is if you had considered adding solar for any portion of it, and if so, how? And then this may be more of a question for staff, but have we had any feedback from the developers of the Miles Kimball building or from 600 North Main with concerns about a 5-story building going in next to them? Thinking that that could eventually have some impact either on their views or their solar possibilities?
So I'll answer this. Why don't you take the first part, Jake, and then I'll take the second part.
Yeah, sounds good. To answer your solar question, we do typically do solar on almost all of our buildings. It kind of depends whose district it is, whether it's Alliant Energy, MG&E down here in Dane County, or We Energies. I would say maybe 2/3 of our buildings have solar on the rooftop. That's where we put them, and those buildings that we choose to do solar on are in MG&E districts. And the reasoning behind that is that MG&E has a 1-to-1 buyback program. So for the month, say that you're producing X amount of energy and your building's using less than that amount of energy, you can actually send that excess energy back into the grid, and MG&E will buy it back from you for as much as you paid for it. Whereas in this site, for example, is We Energies, or some of our other sites down here in Madison are Alliant Energy. They don't have that same 1-to-1 buyback program. They'll pay you pennies back on the dollar for the solar that you're producing and putting back into the grid. So financially on a project like this, unfortunately, solar doesn't make sense. The cost of the equipment is much more than the project can bear. Versus in an MG&E territory, it makes it's feasible financially. So that's unfortunately why we're not doing solar on this site. We are looking into working with the PSC to adjust how that works and those buyback programs work, and maybe in the future it's a possibility, or for future developments that we can hopefully get done in Oshkosh, that would be a possibility as well.
Would your roof structures be designed at a fact that if some of those changes took place, it could be added?
Yeah, we do that as that's a standard part of our building features. We not only make sure, and I know the number off the top of my head. I think it's like £3 per square foot that the solar add on top of your building. So all our buildings are designed to bear the load of solar on the roofs. And we also plan for a bigger transformer and all the electrical conduits that we need for solar. It's just a matter of, installing them or not. And in this case, it, like I mentioned, it just doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
Second part of the question, Marty, we have not heard anything from the owners of the 600 block of Main Street on the project, nor the Miles Kimball folks. A lot of those parties were involved during the RFP of this site and had projects they proposed in this area as well of similar scope and nature, but we have not, at least up to this point, heard any objections from them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Shireman, you're next.
Hi there, thank you. My question is about Rooftop Entertainment. Does the 5 stories prohibit it? I don't know where our tolerance of, having any sort of outdoor activity on the roof, other than we've been involved in conversations with other developments where they've come back and put that in. So I'm wondering what your thought is of that on the front end.
Rooftop Entertainment. We haven't put too much thought into it in this project. I suppose it's something we could look into. I know. So a lot of times with infill development or downtown development, we may add some rooftop green features or patio or grill areas, and those are on sites where there's not necessarily room on like a courtyard or an exterior part of the building where we can put green space and whatnot. So that's why it probably hasn't been addressed from us now. We could certainly look into it. I know there's certain expenses that go along with, putting rooftop entertainment or green spaces. You need 2 stair access points and elevator access points. So it just adds cost, but if we certainly could take a look into it.
Yeah, that's just my perspective, just because we've seen at least one come back. I know across the river they have rooftop space. I know down the block they've got a bar that's now got rooftop space. That feels like that's kind of a cool thing, and this is clearly going to be one of a showcase development for us. So I just more perspective. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback.
All right, is there any other Plan Commission members that'd like to ask the applicant a question? If not, we can move to commission action on this item.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report. Kathy?
Kiefer, second.
We have a motion and a second. Plan Commission, any discussion on this motion? I see Kath, Ms. Prop, your hand is up.
I'm sorry, I seem to be dominating. This is a nice development, and I think I am hopeful that it will work well. The price point might be difficult for Oshkosh, but the developer, that's the next time he comes back with this specific plan. I'm going to lobby once again for the Parks Department and the city to negotiate maximum public space out in that green area section. Something beyond just the simple Riverwalk would be excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Plan Commission discussion on this motion? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Mark, you're not either, correct?
I'm not.
All right. Commission, we have a motion and a second. It's time for a roll call vote.
Miss Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Prop,
Aye.
Ms. Shireman,
Aye.
Mr. Kulabali,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
All right, item number 5 has been withdrawn by staff prior to the meeting. So we move to item number 6, which is approval of the Oshkosh Housing Needs Assessment and Strategy Plan. Community Development Department is the petitioner to this item.
So,
All right.
Yep, this one's me. We are finally moving forward with the full housing needs assessment for approval from this body. We were with you 2 weeks ago and kind of went over some of the overviews of the project. Since that time, staff did host another public online informational session to seek feedback. We've been getting some feedback online through Facebook messages and postings for the document that's out there. We have included all of those comments in the most recent draft that was sent to you as part of the Plan Commission report. At this time, staff does feel it's appropriate to move forward with the adoption process and hopefully move on to council next week with final adoption of the plan. I didn't include a new presentation on it, so, you know, we just had it a couple weeks back. But at this time, staff is asking for your support on recommended approval of that plan. I think you're muted, Tom.
Okay, Plan Commission, is there any comment on this request? All right, I see none. So the commission, it is up to you for action.
Move to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report, namely approval of the housing needs assessment and strategy plan.
Second, Mamadu.
I heard a motion and a second. I'm not sure who you got as the second, Anna.
Mamadu.
Any discussion?
Mamadou.
Mamadou. Any discussion on the motion?
If I could just say one thing, I do want to thank the Plan Commission members and members of this body who assisted us during the planning process. We do really appreciate the additional time you invested to help us with it.
Thank you. It was a very thorough report, so I'm looking forward to seeing this. Kathy, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, when approval happens by the city council, I think the Plan Commission will eagerly await an implementation workshop of some kind.
Yeah, staff's formulating a timeline to start the implementation process. Right now, we're potentially looking at April to begin some of those discussions with elected officials and Plan Commission.
Good, thank you.
All right, any other discussion on this motion? I see none, so let's do a roll call vote.
I did see that Ms. Davies said she lost sound, so I don't know if she'll be able to respond. But Ms. Davy? Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairperson Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, last item on our agenda is adjournment. Mr. Kiefer, you're not eating anything?
Should be very quick planning director's report.
All right, so we have, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Very quickly, Tom, I do have a planning director's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just for commission's knowledge, the mask requirement in City Hall has been lifted, In conjunction with that, all board and commission meetings have been instructed to go back to in person. So we will be back in person for our next meeting on March 15th.
Great.
Yay.
Yeah. I'm assuming in the directions or the whatever you'll be giving us where it is, because I've never been in person.
We are in 404 of City Hall.
Okay. Great.
That is all I have.
Okay. Great. Okay, now the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make a motion, Kiefer.
Shireman second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call vote.
Miss Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Miss Prop,
Aye.
Miss Shireman,
Aye.
Mr. Kulabali,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell,
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.